Hello, Wastebusters, and welcome to this very special extra August episode, which forms part of my ecological wellbeing conversations that explore the need to recognise that our wellbeing is inseparable from the wellbeing of the world around us. It's the very space where personal potential meets planetary wellbeing. My guest today is Dr Sylvia Earle, who founded Mission Blue in her early 70s after winning funding from her TEDx talk that she gave in 2009, outlining her desire to create a global network of what she called hope spots to protect the ocean, the very system that supports all life on Earth. The Ross Sea was one of Sylvia's first 10 hope spots back in June 2011. She set it up alongside the Antarctic and Southern Ocean Coalition and the Last Ocean documentary to secure marine protection for the ecosystem, a feat that slowly gained momentum and finally succeeded in October 2016, making this year its 10th anniversary. This is one of those episodes you're going to want to listen to at least a gazillion times to capture Sylvia's sage wisdom. Her undying passion is contagious, and what makes it extra special is the divine synchronistic timing with the launch of my Pips Poo Oracle cards that lift off today on Kickstarter. You can find a link to this and all Sylvia's details in the description below. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome to the show, everybody. I have the most amazing woman with me today, Dr. Sylvia Earle. There's so much depth and breadth to her work. But for me, the inspiration is not just our connection so far as the word hope is concerned and the ocean, but the way that she is approaching a massive problem in such an innovative way. And if I dare say that she's also a great role model for taking action and not to let age be a deterrent, put it that way. Having just reached retirement age at 65 myself, there's a lot of people who are putting their slippers on, and Sylvia, you are a beacon of hope for everybody. Welcome to the show.
When you do what you love, why would you stop? I mean, there are reasons why sometimes you have to, but as long as you're enjoying yourself, why bring it to an end if you don't have to?
Exactly. But that's also a reason for people to find something that is important to them.
Sure, right. Find out who you are. When people ask me, oh, there's so much to do in the world, what should I do? And I turn it around and ask, what have you got? Because everyone is different. Everyone has something that makes them whoever it is they are. It's the superpower, your superpower. What is it? What makes you different? What makes you you? Take that something and use that as the way to get to where you want to go. I mean, do you have a way with kids? Do you have a way with animals? Do you have a way with music? Do you have a way with mathematics, with words, whatever it is? What makes you shine? Then put that to work. Although it shouldn't feel like work if you're doing what you love.
Exactly. And that's the core of my own work. And also, it's so many big problems that we think we have to do something productive, constructive to make a difference. But the difference we're making is by being ourselves and using our unique skills to be like a lighthouse, a beacon of hope to everybody else. And that way we attract and create more of it. It has a ripple effect, doesn't it?
You inspire others to see what they can do. So with the little organization that we started about 15 years ago called Mission Blue, the idea was simply to try to inspire people to do just that with respect to the ocean. Identify a place that you know, that you love, that you think and you're willing to do something either to take care of it if it's in pretty good shape, and or to identify a place that is in trouble and to do what is possible to turn from decline to recovery. Coral reef restoration on land, planting trees, the right trees in the right place with the right care. And nobody can do everything that needs to be done to reverse the current planetary and societal, in some ways, our decline. But if we all decide that we really have to take care of Earth, I mean, considering in the 21st century, we sit at the culmination of 4.5 billion years of Earth's history. And most of that time, we could not live on this planet, certainly not as we do in the 21st century. But just the basics, the climate, the chemistry of the planet, the atmosphere itself. We're so fortunate that after all these many years, we really became who we are as humans in a multitude of other forms of life. And I guess you could say our deepest roots blending into our origins maybe 2 million years ago, 300,000 years to be distinctly Homo sapiens, and the last 11,000 years, the so-called Holocene era. I mean, this is the sweet spot in time. Temperature's kind of just right for us. The amount of oxygen in the atmosphere, too little and we can't survive. Too much and it just takes one bolt of lightning to ignite an oxygen-rich atmosphere, more so than what we currently have, that can be devastating in terms of fires. As it is, about 20% of what makes air is oxygen. Most of the rest is nitrogen. And then a little bit of carbon dioxide, just enough historically to power photosynthesis. We need a little bit of carbon dioxide, but not too much, because that starts other things in motion. And by burning fossil fuels to generate energy, which we've done, well, certainly ambitiously in the last 100 years and a bit before that. But our ability now to recognize the magnitude of the changes we have made to nature to power our own comfort, existence,
Mm,
prosperity, we're beginning to, for the first time, actually be able to calculate the cost, to
mm.
see our impact, and to realize we have to turn from consuming nature to avoid being consumed by nature. I mean,
Absolutely. The thing that comes up for me is humanity in this productive commercial way has separated, it's been very divisive, and it's recognizing that we cannot dominate nature. And visiting Antarctica was a real aha moment for me. It really brought it home. But it's also about the interconnectedness of everything in life.
everything. Yes, yeah, got it right.
Yeah. And Antarctica, for me, again, a big thing is that the ocean, we divide it into different names, but actually it is just one ocean. And
Correct.
it circulates the entire planet. And it is a good 70% of the planet. And it is our life support system. And for me, that is right at the bottom. That is the core of it. And people think Antarctica is far away. How are those waters going to affect us? It is that interconnected relationship and the cyclic flow of nature that we have to begin to appreciate. And every little person dotted all over the world can make a contribution to keeping that cycle going. And that's what I really love about the hope spots that you've created. And the whole model is, and I'm guessing with your experience, you've come across a lot of separate organizations and everybody's doing amazing things, but it's about making it cohesive so it has
Right.
a collective impact. How
Yes,
do
too
you
many
get
silos.
What inspired you to create that model? Because it's very innovative 17 years ago.
Common sense.
Yeah, my mum always said common sense rules. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I mean, we could not do it 50 years ago with the same degree of effectiveness as we can now. The technology did not exist
Mm,
to connect people as well as they now can be with satellites to transmit and cables under the sea so that we're talking right now from New Zealand to California
yeah.
with a clear image, I think, in both directions, clear voices. I mean, whales and elephants and so many creatures communicate over long distances. Whales can transmit over hundreds of miles their deep sounds that channel through the ocean. But when you think, what did it take to develop miracles such as the telephone
Mm-hmm.
and now little handheld cell phones? You got
Yes.
computer power right here. It
Yep.
is amazing, but Einstein did not have a cell phone. He existed before television really took off. It was still black and white in the 1950s, largely. And even simple things like ballpoint pens, we take that for granted. We have to use a quill from a goose to dip into the ink. And even having a language, even being able to write things down. You think, where in our history did that actually begin? I mean, there are clay tablets that go way back before paper and books and things, let alone electronic means of gathering and storing information. And it's going to change. Inevitably, we're going to find ways to improve on things that matter to us. What should really be coming into focus for us, if it isn't already, that we need to take care of the natural living systems that are in great disarray right now. And we need to do it with a clear understanding that our lives depend on taking care of nature. We can
Absolutely.
dream of setting up a colony on Mars. Maybe we
Mm.
will. Maybe we'll have a little community. But 8 billion people,
Mm-hmm.
or by the middle of this century, which is not that far away, 10 billion people, it's going to be a stretch if we can even get there at all and have the ability to change Mars, terraform Mars, that people can grow groceries there, that they can actually have fresh water, maybe taken out of the rocks, or maybe there's some frozen. Who knows exactly right now, but it's not going to be like our home planet. No other place can be. It's like nobody can be you. You're unique.
Mm.
This planet is unique. It has attributes that are in common with some other places, but Earth is what it is, unique. It's our home. We are unique, each one of us. No two humans, no two cats or dogs or horses or cows or pigs or fish are the same. And it's a big thought, but it's a true thought when you look at enormous capacity for diversity, even among humans, let alone all the rest of life on Earth.
And I think when you bring up the word diversity, to me, if we look to nature, diversity is really, really important. But as humans, what has happened over the years, we've seen diversity as people's differences as abnormal. And so they become separated if you don't fit into a particular mold. Again, nature is teaching us so much. And we
All
haven't
the time.
all the time, the symbols all the time. And linking to my ancestor who used the Earth's magnetic field, he observed that and set up observatories. He navigated by something before technology. and discover the North Magnetic Pole, which then helped navigation as a whole. But to me, the field, the cosmic field, has got so much intelligence that if we form that relationship with nature, we can also tap into it. I've just created some oracle cards because I'm obsessed with penguins, showing that penguins, amongst other animals, can teach us to be better humans because they are guided by the Earth's magnetic field and have a connection to it. The thing is, we have this brain up here, which we've allowed to lead the way, but it's got in the way and stopped the creativity and the curiosity and the exploration, which is your forte, isn't it?
Well, should be everyone's strength. We have the best chance right now that we will ever have to change this trajectory of planetary decline to stability and recovery. And there are great examples of how, because of humans, some restoration, replanting, protecting places that are still in great shape, it's working. It,
Mm-hmm.
it really can work. And highlighting those great examples should blow away any sense of skepticism or uncertainty that you have. If you stop killing some of these creatures, they can recover. There's no absolute guarantee, but when you make a conscious effort to create safe operating space for the rest of life on Earth, that we should have a place for ourselves as well.
And the marine protected areas, it was very evident when I watched David Attenborough's film Ocean, because right at the end, he drew that parallel. There was devastating shots of the dredging at the bottom, and you could physically feel the entire auditorium take an in-breath when that dredger went on the bottom. But then at the end of the film, he showed where all these marine protected areas and people had put effort into conserving. It brings tears to my eyes just to think the difference it makes, but it takes time. And we have to learn to be patient because nature doesn't hurry. She has her own cycle, doesn't she?
For sure, yes. Far beyond our 100 years or so, if we're really lucky.
Mm.
But within that envelope, times 10, times 20, times whatever figure, it's the best chance we have ever had, however, to do what it takes to maintain this security. Getting hit on the head for some reason, you might feel as though you've been injured, but it might wake you up. We need a wake up call. Sometimes I say we need a big stick to just get us to see what's there to be seen. And if you don't see it, you can't really care about it. People can see it and not care, but it's hard to take action about something if you're not aware of its existence. Most of the ocean has never been seen by anybody,
Yes.
no humans at least. And a study recently came out documenting the level of ignorance, that the number of people who've actually seen the ocean or how much of it has been seen by humans. It's like 0.001%. It's a tiny,
Wow.
tiny little piece of the ocean where ships have lowered submersibles or where somebody has been below where sunlight shines, the deep sea.
Mm-hmm.
And there are millions of divers, but only in the recent decades, actually getting beneath the surface. But before the 20th century, very few people got below the surface unless they were just tossed overboard and it was a one-way trip. That's easy. I want to come back.
Yes.
And I want to spend time to get to know the creatures who are living there, most of life on Earth. when you think about it, yes, maybe 70% of the surface of the Earth is covered by the ocean, but
Yes.
the ocean is even more three-dimensional than the land. The dimensions of the ocean, average depth is about where the Titanic rests, about 4,000 meters beneath the surface, 2.5 miles. The rest, even within that area, light penetrates. It depends on where you are and what time of day you're asking the question, but 100 to 1,000 meters represents the twilight area. It's below where divers can go. A few intrepid hero type divers who go to beyond 100 meters, but there is a limit. There's even a limit for breath holding mammals and penguins. They can actually make remarkably deep breath hold dives, but they can't go to the bottom of the ocean and come back.
Mm.
They can't go to half the depth of the ocean and come back. We're just beginning to go there ourselves. Just as early in the 20th century, we began to fly for the first time, lift off, and then more and more until on the moon, and then sending little probes to Mars, to Jupiter, and beyond our own solar system. That's remarkable. What's even more remarkable is how little attention we've been spending on the ocean that keeps us alive.
Talking of exploring the depths of the ocean, I was brought up with Jacques Cousteau, and he created the first aqua lung, and you spent weeks under the ocean exploring, and you devised, what are they called, the machines that dive beneath the ocean. How far do they go down?
The machines,
Submersibles, that's the word I was looking for. Yes.
well, until 1960, no one had been to the deepest part of the ocean.
Right.
Then Jacques Picard and Don Walsh, U.S. Navy lieutenant, and Jacques Picard was the son of Auguste Picard, a great explorer who used his talents as an engineer explorer to develop a system of balloon that went high in the sky, and he set records. Who's been the highest in the sky? He was one of the very first to go high into the atmosphere. And then his son, Jacques, really went in the other direction, set the record, with Don Walsh being the first in January of 1960 to make that descent and come back to the surface at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, where the submersible they were in, the Trieste, experienced 16,000 pounds of pressure on every square inch of the submersible. But inside, it was the same pressure that you and I are experiencing right here at sea level. It's just 14.7 pounds per square inch on our bodies. That's the weight of the atmosphere that we walk around in. But astronauts go to the moon, they bounce around because there's no atmosphere to weight them down.
How does it feel to be in a submersible and be up close and a part of the marine world?
Oh, I wish I could take you there. Maybe someday we can do that. We're building some
Sounds like a
new.
really lovely invitation. I'll take you up on that.
I mean, it's our planet, it's our home, and it's in trouble because of us. We need to understand what's going on. And the best way to understand anything is to be there. Use your questioning mind. Look for the evidence. Ask questions. Work with others. See if you can understand the nature of the ocean that makes Earth habitable. No ocean, no life. No blue, no green, and certainly no us.
Mm.
So to realize how lucky we are, how lucky the kids of the 21st century are, because first of all, we know that we're having problems maintaining Earth and the stability of Earth in our favor. Planet is getting warmer and warmer, soon to be really uncomfortable for the likes of us.
Mhm.
And secondly, well, the other changes, the loss of the diversity of life, about half of the wild animals that were on the planet, land and ocean, going back to the middle of the 20th century as compared to the loss that we now experience. People do not generally, maybe very few places where there are so many birds that they literally darken the sky,
Wow.
like having a total eclipse. The sun goes dark with a volume of birds such as the passenger pigeon that numbered in the big B billions. We managed to exterminate the last one early in the 20th century. And here we are, 21st century. There's no bird that has quite occupied that space. And that was mostly North America. But in the past, there have been other species, birds, mammals, certainly insects, and across the board at a level of abundance and diversity that kids of today have a hard time imagining because they didn't see it before. And one of them, David Attenborough, is another, Jane Goodall. We grew up on different planets. I mean, the planet was different,
Yeah. Yeah.
significantly, measurably different, but still within safe operating space because you're not wearing a gas mask. You're just breathing the air, right?
Mm.
And yes, I have a little jacket on, but it could get too hot. There are times when Earth has been way too cold to be
Mhm.
comfortable for us, but we muddled through. Here we are actually altering the nature of nature. We can't change the rules, the laws of nature, but we can certainly disrupt systems, and we definitely have.
And we think we can. It takes me to Antarctica and the toothfish. It's bizarre because I was born in England, so I waited till I'd moved to New Zealand to get more involved. And I think there was divine timing. But in 2012 was the first time that I heard that the Ross Sea was up for a marine protected area. And then I discovered that there was a film coming out called The Last Ocean. And
Yeah.
it was a premiere in Auckland. So I went along and I met the director, Peter Young. And then I was invited to go to Camla to speak at the annual conference there and to talk from an emotional point of view because it's very, very scientific. And it wasn't until 2016, and there's so many individuals and organizations worldwide who have impacted. We finally got marine protection. But the film was about the toothfish, and what it really exacerbates me. You and Jane and David are great role models as to how to continue acting, because I would have thrown my toys out the pram a long time ago. One of the arguments was they were taking them out of the ocean, but they take so long to mature, these toothfish. And nobody knows because, as you said earlier, the depth that they live in, we don't have the information available to us. So why is it the man thinks they're so superior to make that judgment to say, go ahead and rape and pillage the sea, the toothfish don't matter because they're part of the cycle? And again, the krill, when I was in Tasmania, I met Dr. Rodolfo Werner and I did an interview with him. We did the first World Krill Day 4 years ago and talked about the cycle. Well, 2 years ago, they took away the protection of the management of the krill. And I just read this morning that they've cut short the shipping of the krill because they've taken all their quota in a shorter period of time.
But who are we to establish a quota? That's
Exactly.
the that's the arrogance,
Yes, it is.
and it stems from our habit of converting natural systems, species, mining, whatever it is, whatever nature is, the world around us, and finding monetary applications. It's mostly about money. Sometimes it's about direct consumption. But whatever it is, we're consuming nature. And the key right now is to, well, Ed Wilson, who's a big thinking scientist, specializes in ants. On his 80th birthday, he made this comment that nature is slipping through our fingers. And it is. We've lost, through our actions, we have converted trees, krill, tuna, whales, land, you name it, the natural world. We call it natural resources, which translates to free goods. Free goods. They're for us to take. They may be the homes for birds, might be the places where bears and other creatures thrive. They too take from nature, but they don't destroy nature. They don't create waste. We
Yes.
consume and we do create. We created the concept because there's literally no waste in nature. What might look like waste is immediately pounced on by somebody else saying, aha, my time has come. Here's this great meal available to me. It's not throwaway. It's my grocery system. You know, whales produce nutrients, if you want to call it that, that power all the little guys that generate oxygen, the phytoplankton, gives them fertilizer. Trees do the same thing. Birds do the same thing. All animals generate what we think of as waste. But in nature, it's the next generation or the next level of the food system benefiting from what is put back into the system. What's the chemistry of the planet, the living systems, the conversion of one thing into another. And understanding that it should be as basic as learning the alphabet or whatever it is that gives you language, which is something else that is relatively new in our history. Mathematics, I mean, our long ago ancestors had the ability to make calculations, but they had no way to write them down to effectively pass information from one generation to the next, such as we have been doing successfully now for a few thousand years. But in the terms of our history, people who lived 10,000 years ago, pretty much the way we are when we're born, but they came up at a time when they didn't have what the current generation of babies, youngsters, kids have available to them. When I was a kid, no one had seen Earth from space. Einstein had not seen Earth from space. Kids of today, if they wish to find out, is there life in the deepest part of the ocean? Oh, yeah, now we know. We've sent submersibles down there with human beings. They have the evidence. They have photographs. They have information that now is available for anybody to tap into. We need schools. It's a disciplined way to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. It happens in nature. Sometimes baby whales stay with the parent for a year or two, maybe a bit more. Chimpanzees have a long time when they are basically kids learning from their parents and the society around them. But we get serious about it. We have schools. People have knowledge that they do their best to pass on to the next generation. And it's so important to us that in much of civilization, it's a requirement. You have to go to school. You have to subject yourself to this discipline of having your elders stuff your mind with as much information as you can, and then they turn you loose, and now it's your turn to go out and learn more and teach others.
But I think there's a fine line because it's like the pendulum. The schools have, with the best will in the world, when they first started, it directed us as to what is important to learn, which to me has taken away the curiosity and the myths and the innate feelings that past and indigenous cultures have and connection to nature. It's very clinical in a classroom, and to me does not encourage. I mean, there are some, it's a sweeping statement, but I just think
I hear you.
overall, yeah, the system needs to loosen the reins. It's typical of the last couple of centuries where it's gone from one extreme to another, and I just feel it in my bones. It is starting to recalibrate. Mother Nature is saying, I'm not standing for this anymore. There's eruptions worldwide, there's floods and there's fires and earthquakes. It's extreme. And as you said earlier, it's that wake up call. You can't then unknow what you've discovered, and so use that to fire you up, inspire you to do something. And it doesn't matter. I always remember Jane Goodall saying, even if you turn off a switch, you're making a contribution to preserving our natural resources.
And with that concept in mind, be aware of what you're doing and ask the question when you go to the store to buy things, ask, so, potato, where were you grown?
Yes.
Were you here in my community? Were you shipped in from thousands of miles away? And to find fruit, strawberries, cherries in the middle of winter? No, wait a minute. Where did you come from? Or see a fish. First, the question is, who are you? What's your name? Where'd you come from? Every fish is different. And animals, we already know, are sometimes, much like humans, they have signature names. Whales, we don't know about fish, but we do know that fish communicate with sounds, some of them pretty loud. Croakers croak. They make a oh, oh sound, almost like a dog. But all birds, I say that comprehensively. There may be some birds that don't make sounds. I can't imagine where they might be, but they are preceded on the planet in the history of life by fish, preceded by crustaceans, life in the sea. Diving into the ocean, even today, is like diving into the history of life on Earth. Almost, most of it, ocean life. Most of the major divisions, I'm looking for an exception of a major division of life, and maybe there are some key characters that have only emerged in terrestrial situations, but when you look at how we measure the diversity across categories that we call phyla or divisions, and then you get down to another level of orders and families and genera and species, based on what our current surveys, there are more insects than any other kind of category of creature, but they're in one class of arthropods, creatures with jointed legs, another crustacea. And these are just our names for these
Yes.
animals that aren't nicely categorized. There are a lot of crossovers and mixes and questions. But generally speaking, you could say that the diversity among insects, that is a group of complicated six-legged creature with pairs of antennae and wings and all that that make an insect are comparable with the whole class known as crustacea that is divided into many orders and families and so on. We're just beginning to explore the ocean. We're finding new species all the time. So there may likely be crustacea in the sea that parallel or even exceed insects on the land. They've been developing over a much longer period of time in a much greater space. 97% of Earth's living space is ocean, because where is the water? All life requires water. And Earth's water is surface that you see as you fly around the world. It's about 70%, but we're talking 3 dimensions.
Yes. Wow.
And all of it is alive.
It makes me think of our perception is only like 0.01% that we can consciously receive of it. And as you said earlier, arrogant to think, and we start categorizing things. And you spoke of the whale sounds and the birds and the different sounds. It just reminds me of penguins because I'm obsessed by them. I call soul signature song that we all have, in my belief. But it's evident when you've got colonies of thousands and they can pick one another up by their individual sounds.
Correct. Yes. Your mother's voice,
Yes.
your
Yes.
child's voice.
Yes.
There's no voice like it. We don't have anything that can be directly compared to penguins, but we kind of understand because your voice is different from mine and different from any other voice that exists or ever has existed or will exist. It's your voice. It's a life or death thing in a colony of birds. That's how you find mom or your child. You become really tuned in to the ability to find that special sound.
Mm.
With whales and other marine mammals, sound in the sea is just as important to them as sight is to us, maybe even more important. I mean, when you think, how do creatures communicate underwater? Light is a really important feature. Something like 90% of life in the sea can form bioluminescence like fireflies. Mammals cannot. Vertebrates generally accept that fish have adapted partnerships with bioluminescent bacteria that they keep in special little pouches. Like there's a creature called the flashlight fish, photoblepharon. They have little light patches under their eyes that can either be, I guess they glow all the time, but you can turn the lights off by lowering like an eyelid. It's a little lid comes down over it so they can actually blink and signal back and forth to their fellow fish, or sometimes use it as a lure, perhaps, to bring small creatures in that they can turn into lunch.
Wow.
So,
And for me,
but
it's this light and sound, which goes back to the very core of physics. It is what the Earth's magnetic field is made up of, is light and sound waves. That is really what exists. But we have such a limited capacity with our brain to think. And when you were talking about being submersed in the ocean and the whales, it must be fabulous. And I think probably beyond words to be immersed in a cacophony of sounds, and it's beyond description. The visceral response, being a part of their world, must be completely delicious.
it's less of a cacophony and more of an orchestra. It's not unpleasant.
No.
It's melodious. And it's not just the whales. It's fish, as I say, crustaceans have been around for 500 million years. And sharks have been around 400 million years. So many creatures that preceded the world that we know, they're still out there in the ocean. It's the history of life. We can dive into history by getting to know those creatures who've maintained a place for themselves over eons. And I have to keep thinking to myself, my roots, my life is embedded in that history. I, as part of the human species, we are newcomers. We are a recent part of this fabric of life. And we look at all the rest as relatives because they all are. They share DNA. The chemistry of life brings us all together. Therefore, we can tap into plants for medicinal systems that can be compatible with ours. We can cultivate bacteria for some of the ingredients that we can use that are naturally in our bodies. When we are trying to combat certain illnesses, we've developed the fine art of trying to work with nature for our benefit. But as has been what we have imagined, we talk about clear cutting a forest and turning it into a pasture to raise cows. That's an improvement. We've converted nature for our benefit, and we have not accounted for the cost or the loss. When we lose a natural system that has taken, it depends. I mean, some systems have been very stable for very long periods of time, especially in the deep sea, where some of those manganese nodules have been relatively undisturbed for long enough for these living lumps of rock, because they're really consolidated through the action of microbes. They're not dead rocks, they're living systems that gradually take the elements of the universe that are in the seawater and bring them into a physical form, not just a liquid form and solid form. And you can see if you cut through one of those manganese nodules, they're like growth rings. They're still growing, but over hundreds of thousands, even millions of years. And we come along and presume that their best use is to be converted for something for short-term application for us, and destroyed without even asking the questions. What's going on here? We rely on the stability of ancient processes, take them for granted. But you can be dismissive. You can say it doesn't matter as long as you don't know. We really don't know how these manganese nodules are formed. We know more than has ever been known before. Lucky us. But we're also at the edge of losing more than ever before because of our assumption that it's all about us. Okay, if it is all about us, then we better stop destroying nature. Because, as Ed Wilson said, we're letting nature slip through our fingers. But nature can let us slip through hers. If we get a planet that's too warm, if the chemistry of the ocean becomes even more acidic than it already is because of carbon dioxide entering the ocean and becoming carbonic acid, it's a relatively gradual process, but it's reaching an alarming state. Just as warming the planet is gradual, we better take notice before we have consumed more of the natural living systems that, as you point out, is our life support system, nature. That's what sets Earth apart from Mars or Jupiter, any other place that we know about. It is the water, first and foremost, but it's life in the water that makes Earth habitable. And we've made extreme efforts, it would seem, to make Earth uninhabitable. It's like, okay, let's go to Mars and turn it into Earth. But meanwhile, we're turning Earth into Mars.
Yes, gosh, that's a really, really poignant. So, what can people do? Because I mean, you talked about hope spots, and hope is my family motto. Hope lightens difficulties, which is something that James Clark Ross inherited when he was knighted. And the thing for me, it's if we focus on what it is that we want to change, be the change we want to see in the world. If we focus on that, yes, there are massive problems, but I think the core of what you're saying is get curious and recognize we're limited by what we think we know. Just get more and more curious, because as you say, those minerals, just to look at them, they look nothing, but they are a life support system to who knows how many other animals, fossil, you can just name crustaceans, insects. We have got no clue. And so what is your advice to people, and how can they contribute to helping get the planet back on an even keel?
Well, for sure, be curious.
Yes.
Kids are naturally curious. Scientists are irrepressibly curious. They want to know. And we should listen to those who have become knowledgeable about something, but never stop asking questions. Somebody tells you a grand fact that they have discovered or they think you should know, then you should just ask, how do you know? Where's the evidence to support what you're saying? And it's not skeptical, it's just, I really want to know. Where did this shrimp come from? It came from somewhere. It lived a life. This tuna, my tuna tartare, or whatever it is, where was your home? What was it like to be a tuna living day and light in a part of the world that most humans have never seen? And you may be 30 years old, Mr. Tuna. How did you spend your years? The chicken you might also eat is less than 1 year old, and it eats really low on the food chain. A tuna is like a lion or a tiger, but even further up the food chain because they eat predators that eat predators. Most fish in the sea and in the freshwater too eat other animals, insects or crustaceans or other fish or whatever. And it's a long and twisted food chain. And the older the fish, the more they've investment has been made. And I look at myself in the mirror and say, how many groceries have you consumed for every pound of you? I mean, ecologically speaking, a bite out of me is pretty expensive as compared to, a chicken that grows to maturity in less than 1 year. But some of these creatures we take, we're not even thinking about it. How long did it take for you to get to grown-up size? And how long does it take for a shark to go from a little baby shark, just first swimming in the ocean, to be a mom or dad shark? I mean, it could be 20 years. So there's this long time, and they don't have very many offspring. So it's really when you think about their life history and our pressure on sharks from where they were, even in the 1980s, which is only less than half a century ago, their numbers have collapsed. Some to right at the edge of extinction, like the short fin makos. Half of 1% is all that appears to remain of one of the most abundant sharks in the open sea. The oceanic whitetips down to a tiny fraction. Overall, sharks are down to about 10%. Some say it's 20%. Whatever it is, it's not like it used to be when you go into the ocean and you think, ooh, I gotta watch out for the sharks. They're dangerous, except they turn out not to be.
Mm-hmm.
We are the danger to them. And now
Yeah.
I'm afraid when I go in the ocean and I don't see sharks. That's a sick ocean without the big fish, without tuna, without grouper, without snapper, without halibut, without cod, without lobsters. I mean, everything in the ocean, if we can eat it, it's called seafood.
Mm-hmm.
One label. We call all of those remarkably beautiful, diverse creatures as fish. What kind of fish? 33,000 kinds plus. New species are being discovered all the time. But when you have chicken, it's one species with some variations, but it's chicken. When you have
Yes.
a hamburger, it's beef. There are some variations in the theme of cows, but it's basically one kind of animal. But when you
Mm-hmm.
have fish, what kind of fish? Who are you? Were you 10 years old or were you 100 years old? If
Mm-hmm.
you're a shark, you could be 200 years old.
You can learn a lot by history, and we've setting goals because there's this big goal to reach 30% of marine protection by 2030. And we're only like 10% there. We've got 3.5 years.
No, 3% is
Really?
really, there are protected areas where you can still fish, both recreationally and commercially. We don't have national parks where you're invited to come in and shoot the birds and cut the trees. But I was impressed when Greece 2 years ago made the big announcement they were going to stop bottom trawling in their national sanctuary, the areas that they were allegedly protecting. You could go in with trawls and kill the fish commercially. It's not unique. It's true with our national marine sanctuaries in North America. Some countries are better than others in terms of defining what is protected. And you're right, the figure, if you take everything, the so-called sanctuaries where you can fish and do other things that aren't very nice to the systems. Anyway, you can get to 10%. And we're presuming 30%. And some countries really are stepping up. I look at Chile, the current administration is not as much on board as several presidents in the immediate past that all seemed to line up in favor. They disagreed about a lot of things, but they came together about protecting the ocean. Panama is really a leader in terms of exceeding the 30% already and meaning what they say about protection. And New Zealand is not as good as some, but better than most. So bravo, New Zealand.
The thing that gets me is because it's coming up to the 10th anniversary of the Ross Sea securing marine protection on the 28th of October. And in all that time, there are still 3 marine protected areas on the table, one of which is the peninsula that started off before the Ross Sea was actually tabled, and that's still not.
In Antarctica.
Yes, Antarctica, yeah. And it's the geopolitical, it's a lot of, excuse my French, bullshit going on, and it's the commercialization of everything. There's Russia and China are the 2 countries that have got in
and
the
Norway.
way.
Norway.
Oh, okay, right. Right, interesting.
Their krill fishery is like 66% of what is taken, and it goes back to one individual with a network of companies that is endorsed by the government and endorsed by Camelar, the agency. I mean, I say endorsed, that's probably the wrong word, but industry gets breaks. I have to pull back again and look, how did Camelar, what does acronym stand for? It's the agency through the United Nations.
The Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources.
Yay, that's it. Short form, it's CAMLR. It consists of, I think, it's like 27 individuals who represent
24 plus the EU, yes.
Okay. And they have voting authority that the United Nations, when they created this, it's a little bit like the deep sea mining authority. It's a small group of individuals representing a subset of nations. It's not everybody, but they're making decisions on behalf of the whole world. And they've been favoring, through their decisions, smaller group of countries that are really going full speed to exploit, quotes, natural resources, nature. So they benefit, but everybody pays the cost because the waters around Antarctica, the high seas beyond national jurisdiction, which is a concept that we invented, it didn't come into play until 1990s, that all preceding history, there was no such thing as exclusive economic zones. We created that concept. The whales know nothing about it, nor do the fish. But we have to govern ourselves according to our concept of rules and regulations. But it's just wrong that you have this handful of individuals who are commercial interest friendly, representing exploiting rather than exploring and caring for systems that have a magnified impact on our life support, on keeping all of us, not just with big bank accounts. That only goes back to a very small number of nations, actually a small number of individuals within a small number of nations, and everybody else is just left saying, oh, wait, it's a global commons. Everybody has a vested interest in the state of the world. Why are these few being disproportionately authorized to take from what belongs to, if it belongs to anybody, it belongs to everybody. I would say it belongs to the fish, it belongs to the whales, it belongs to life on Earth. We're a part of that, but we're not the only ones that benefit from having the ocean in a healthy state. And Antarctica, I know you know the history that the first explorers in the 1800s who discovered the continent, they were explorers, but mainly they were sealers.
Yes.
They were there to kill. Whittle was a sealer.
Mm-hmm.
Palmer was an American sealer. And they were so excited when they found a place that nobody had been there before. And they were the first to be able to start stripping away the life that represents the distillation of all preceding history. When no predator had come in, yes, they're predators, they're orcas. They take a few seals, but we take as many as we possibly can cram onto the decks of our ships and take them to global markets that are insatiable.
It's the bycatch that really gets me as well. It's what they put on the ships, but it's what they also throw back as dead.
Right. So if you can't sell it, it's useless or it's underutilized. Where did that concept come from?
Yes.
Buy
Yeah.
catch, buy kill, whatever it is. You keep what you can sell, and everything else is just killed and lost. If you bulldozed a forest just to get the songbirds, people would notice and they might say something. If you bulldoze the ocean with trawlers or strip the ocean with long lines, or go to Antarctica with big ships with nets to catch the krill that represents the basis of the food chain for penguins, for other birds, for fish, for seals, for whales, for the whole system. It's anchored in sunlight, phytoplankton, krill, and then everything else kind of goes from there. And
Mm.
not everything else. I mean, there are some creatures in the plankton that obviously feed directly on the phytoplankton, just as the krill do. And they're part of this network of life, the chemistry of the ocean. But krill are so obvious and they're so clearly essential in the lives of so many of the creatures. It's like you take away the banquet that maintains the whales, maintains the seals, maintains the birds, including the penguins. What have you got? You have an empty ocean, and you have a system that is critical to climate stability that is upended. Think about that pattern of first it was the seals, then it was the penguins, then it was the whales, and then the fish. The deep sea fish are still being hammered. Orange roughy, Chilean sea bass, Oreos, these creatures that live a long time have very few young compared to many species, but their life history is not very adaptable to large scale extraction. That doesn't stop us from large scale extraction. Orange roughy that were discovered, I mean, not until late in the 20th century as a commercial product. I remember looking at bulletins from Australian fisheries that were celebrating the discovery of new areas where they could exploit orange roughy that are known to scientists in the most unmarketable name as slime heads. I wish they were marketed as slime heads because then people
Yes,
wouldn't.
it's the Chilean sea bass that you talked about. That was another name because it's actually the toothfish, but that didn't sound very
That's right.
appealing. And to me, what you're saying with the analogy you made about the forest, if we strip the forest just to get to the songbird, we are very narrow-minded because we're looking like the iceberg, everything above, what we can see. but ultimately it's the depth, to explore the depth, to get curious, because that is the very thing that is nourishing the very existence of everything that we see above.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I mean, if everybody could just see that and to realize this is the greatest era of exploration ever. We're right at the edge of being able to access the deep sea. We've been looking from the top down, but we really haven't been looking. We've just been scouting for what we can take and sell. Yes, there are scientists, but what is driving the loss of the resilience of the ocean, the decline of the ocean, threats to our existence? It's the quest for more money. And once upon a time,
gender, isn't it? That's the thing. Yeah, and for people to question.
Yeah, I'm all for making money. I think that's fine. But how you make it, we have to figure out how can we have a sound economy while maintaining a sound planet that works in our favor. We've been hacking away at the living elements of Earth. Literally about half of the forests, half of the land converted for economic benefit for humans. I mean, agriculture. Can we feed ourselves? The answer is yes, we can feed ourselves much more efficiently with a lighter touch. We don't have to clear cut new forests to plant what it is that we need and that can be nutritious and delicious. But we've gotten so far away from what we need without accounting for the cost of nature. We just clear cut rainforests, convert healthy natural deserts. You say we need more water here so we can grow things that don't naturally occur in this dry area. Well, there's a lot of life there. We ought to capitalize on, gosh, I wonder how they make a living on very little water, because we could learn from that. No, we just obliterate all those clever species and start by going into the deep ground, bring up groundwater that's accumulated over, in some cases, thousands of years until it's basically gone. And now what do we do when you've done damage to something that if we knew what we now know, we might make different decisions? We've channeled so many rivers in ways that benefit agriculture, that benefit industry, that benefit power, hydropower. But consider the loss with those thousands and thousands of river interruptions when we choose to insert ourselves in these basic processes that make Earth habitable, destroying the very systems that maintain our existence. We just didn't know. I apologize on behalf of my species on the basis of they just didn't know. If they could just see what is now known, and if only we could go back 100 years, 50 years, even 20 years, the knowledge is racing ahead of our attitudes, of our laws that really promote the extraction of nature, free nature. 1,000-year-old tree, it's worthless because it's in the way of planting tobacco or corn or cows. So cut down that tree. Let's make it useful. Let's develop it. Let's convert it. Only, okay, we're right on the edge. Maybe like a race, we can reach that point where we can hit the pause button and get serious about protecting what is almost lost. Nature could let us slip through her fingers if we don't respect who she is. The laws of nature, we better learn them. Don't try to reinvent them.
Sounds like a beautiful way of rounding off our time together. And I just want to honor you And I think, as I said earlier, you and Jane Goodall and David Attenborough, you have seen so much. And I'm humbled by the way that you approach things and learn from your environment, the people, and listen to them to create solutions. And I just love the hope spots that started off with very few. The Ross Sea was in your first top 10, and now you have 174.
That's correct. In 123 nations around the world.
It's just
And
phenomenal.
when Jane tried to respond to the question, what gives her hope? The human mind. I mean, when you look around, there are so many creatures who know things we do not know. And we cannot know because we're not equipped with the same sensory systems, but we have the advantage of storing knowledge, passing along, being creative. And most of this is accelerating. There are now 8 billion minds. Okay, but it's more than just knowing stuff.
Yes.
It's more than engineering. It's more than having facts and figures. It's the human spirit. What do you do with this knowledge? Have that something special that it's not unique to humans. You see it in other animals. You see it in dolphins and dogs, and cats, elephants, across the human and animal collection of creatures, I guess. It's called compassion, kindness, getting outside of your skin and helping somebody else. You work together. But we have really developed that in our social skills, our network, our culture, and we need to respect others, and that's part of it. Human mind, human spirit, the resilience of nature. We've lost so much, but that resilience that is building to diversity. But when you consider that we've really compromised that diversity in my lifetime, it's the sixth great extinction. We didn't have anything to do with the 5 physical causes of whatever caused Earth to change sharply and markedly in times past. But we are the agent of cause this time, causing extinction and the conversion of nature by one species. And there are millions of others that we need to support us, for us to now be supportive of them. But Jane's fourth reason was the kids. Reason for hope. They don't know what they didn't know. They come into a world that is full of information that nobody knew or could know. When Jane Goodall or David Attenborough, or you think of all the people who have lived through this time of learning and loss, the 20th century into the 21st. Okay, the things we did not know when we were kids, children of today, they know what Earth looks like from space. People have been up there. And to be able to just make that a part of their basic knowledge. They don't have to wonder, is the moon made of green cheese? No, it's not. What is Mars? We have samples brought back from Mars. We can go to the deepest parts of the ocean and have evidence. And while it is true that the greatest era of exploration, whether it's into the universe beyond or into the depths of the sea, we have the means with our mind and our spirit to create technologies, ask questions, get answers, but then to take that information and change the way we behave. That's our superpower. If we are able to adapt and adjust, armed with a reality that we could not know before, it's like, oh, now I see. Now we have to stop killing the trees, especially the old growth trees. Every wild system that's been around for thousands of years, that's precious. That's the greatest treasure. In the ocean, why would we even dare think about deep sea mining? These ancient systems that have answers to questions that we don't even know how to ask. Perhaps some of the most important questions. We're not there yet, but don't destroy the opportunity for ourselves and for next generation and those who will follow. We're making these once and never more decisions on behalf of everyone out there in the future, and we better get it right. So I'm excited.
The human spirit, actually heart, because what you're bringing in there was compassion. And I think to have a heart, get curious, and to honor the blue heart of our planet. And I would like to end our conversation today to say what an absolute honor it has been to have spent time with you in conversation, and in deep gratitude to you for your curiosity, your hope, your explorations, your inquisitive mind, and for laying a brilliant foundation for the rest of us to think about and make a difference for future generations.
Thank you, Philippa Russ. I love and admire your passion for penguins and for all of life on Earth. And thank you for all you're doing to tell the rest of the world how wonderful it is to be a 21st century human being. Best
Brilliant.
time.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you.
Bless you. Bless you.
And you.
What an absolute privilege it was to spend time with Sylvia. She celebrates her 91st birthday on the 30th of August, so the Mission Blue team have launched their very first Founder Day to honour the extraordinary legacy of a woman who has spent her entire life inspiring us to protect the blue heart of the planet. Happy birthday, Sylvia, and here's to us leaving an indelible heartprint on the planet too, following in your footsteps. Make sure you follow or subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes, because I have got an epic calibre of guests lined up from now to the end of the year. The next one will be Diane Di Napoli, who was part of a team who rescued 40,000 African penguins affected by the oil spill back in the year 2000. All your feedback and reviews are much appreciated, as are your ideas for subjects or guests that you would like me to consider. Just email me on info@philippaross.com. So, until next time, dig deep, open your mind to a world of possibilities, live life with a generous heart. Be the change you want to see in the world, and take steps to minimize waste and maximize your potential.
Penguins rock!